Good afternoon or good morning or wherever you are, and welcome to Modern Campground Fireside Chats. I am not Brian Searle. My name is Mike Harrison. I'm with CRR Hospitality. I'm excited to guest host this week's edition of Fireside Chats. And Jeff, that was the first time I ever realized that there was like this little MC Fireside Chats in the intro music. I've heard that probably 50 times. I just picked up on that now. But anyhow, on the weekly editions, every week there's a different group of panelists as well as different topics and things that we talk about, and we discuss ongoing trends, markets, challenges, wins, opportunities, threats, etc. And this week will be no different. We have our regular recurring guests as well as a couple new guests that will join us this week. So I'd love to go around real quickly and just introduce everybody. Uh, my name is Mike Harrison. I am the Chief Operating Officer of CRR Hospitality. We own and manage our own outdoor hospitality assets like Verde Rancho View Resort, and we also do third-party management and consulting. And always happy to be here. Jeff?
My name is Jeff Huffman, and I am a founder of Camp Strategy, which is a consulting firm for campgrounds, whether it's due diligence, feasibility studies, or just coaching you through your campground a little bit more profitable.
Great. And we were just talking about, how long have you owned your current campground?
Yes, I am the oldest guy in the group. 1968.
Now everybody else calculate when they were born, figure out. That's impressive. What an amazing accomplishment. Kaylee.
Oh, yeah. I'm Kaylee Day. I own Surf Junction Campground out in Ucluelet on Vancouver Island, BC.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Stephen?
I'm Steve Saint. I own Fort We Like It Campground at Custer, South Dakota, in the Black Hills of South Dakota.
Right near the park, right?
I'm sorry?
Right near the national park, right?
The Custer State Park, Black Hills National Forest.
National Forest, gotcha. That's great. Before we get into trends, I'd love to hear maybe Kaylee and Steve, if you guys could describe a little bit about your properties. It's always interesting to hear about, and yours are both very interesting and unique. So it'd be great, if you could talk about, what you do and what you run and what you own, and let us know a little bit about them.
Yeah. Steven, is it okay if I go first?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, sweet. Yeah. Surf Junction, it's a forested campsite or campground located just south of the Pacific Rim National Park Reserve. So we're not on the water, but we're very close. And the campground itself has kind of like the classic campground infrastructure. So tenting sites, partially service sites, and then full service campsites, like the large RV. And then we have a lot of amenities like hot tub, sauna, flush toilets, hot showers, all that good stuff. And then we have a surf school that operates out of the Pacific Rim National Park, which is kind of awesome. And then we have surf rentals and a little general store and coffee shop. And we have about 90 campsites and 72 acres, but we kind of only utilize about 40. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I'm nervous.
You're only used for. Can I borrow the other 32 acres then, if they're not
Right.
being used right now?
No, we just wanted to stay wild.
Tell us a little bit more. I mean, talk about a niche campground, right? I mean, how many campgrounds in the country offer surf school, right? So maybe talk a little bit more about that. And then does it drive the camping business? Is it standalone? What kind of revenue does that do? Very interested in that.
Yeah, so I found that with the campground being kind of more of a traditional campground, so we're not like an RV park. We don't really have that like high density yield on our just on our land. So we also keep our camping price point relatively low to get a lot of people in. And then we make a lot of our revenue kind of comes from the trifecta of camping, surf lessons, and surf rentals. So I found that, our lower price point helps generate a lot more campers in the shoulder season. We fill up and then we make our our revenue off of like the add-ons, so like the coffees, the merchandise, and then really pushing the sales on our surf lessons and then our surf rentals and doing packages and that sort of stuff. So yeah, we've been able to grow it over the years, which has been nice. We were able to expand the campground, which was huge for us, hence the like 72 acres, because the original campground we bought was 18. And then we expanded back. But yeah, the surf lessons, it's a huge part of our business, and it also helps build our community with our campers and our guests, and a lot of like camper loyalty, I guess, because they take lessons from us. They come back every year. They start doing rentals, and they bring their friends. Their kids grow up doing lessons, and they come back over the years. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it's there's nothing to be nervous about, right? We're all just having a conversation or a fireside chat.
Yeah,
Although
I know, right?
I don't see any
I
fires.
babble when I'm nervous, so.
Yeah. What I'm curious, and it's not an inquisition. I can't help myself, and I'm just curious about your business. So, did you acquire the campground as an existing, and there was already a surf school there, or did you acquire and create the surf school?
Yeah, so Surf Junction already existed. We bought it 13 years ago, and it was on the original 18 acres, and it's one of Ukulet's first surf schools. It was quite a bit smaller, and they did surf rentals as well out of the office, and then we've just expanded it. So we offer more lessons, more rentals. We pushed it out of our little office, and now we have this like surf shack, so it's more visible. And yeah, so we bought it pre-existing, but have since expanded it.
And so you're on Vancouver Island, so I mean, is it hard to get to you?
Yes, but we're quite the destination. I don't know if you guys Google Tofino. It's like Yuki's kind of like the less like Tofino's kind of like the well-known surf spot. It's kind of like Canada's California, if you will. So there's lots of big, beautiful beaches, and it's quite the destination. So we have a lot of European people that come. But yeah, it's like 5.5 hours from Vancouver. It's a ferry ride. It's a long, windy road out here. It's not for the faint of heart.
All right, so people aren't driving by your campground; they're coming specifically to see you.
Yes, yeah. In the area in general, it's just kind of at capacity with visitors. So we open our reservations in January, and like by June, we're full for the summer.
I have more questions, but I'm gonna come back.
Yeah.
Steve, how about you? Tell us a little bit about your park.
Well, we're just outside the town of Custer. We're on the north east side of Custer, heading up to Sylvan Lake. We're about 22 acres. We have 100 sites total. 71 of them are RV sites, and they range from 30 amp water and electric only to the 50 amp pull-through sites. It's quite a different range. One of the unique things about our place is not two sites are exactly the same. They're all unique. They're all very different. We are heavily treed, so you're in the forest when you're staying with us. We've got deer and turkey that run through the campground daily, 2-3 times a day. We have one of our unique things that we have that I really like to talk about is our camping barrels. We have camping barrels. They're not traditional camping or sleeping cabin. They look like a giant whiskey barrel. They're really unique. We actually had to get them special ordered in from Norway. We get a lot of comments about them. They're just kind of sleeping. They just have a mattress and some a little bit of electricity, but they're really neat. So I tell everyone, check them out. We got plenty of pictures, but I think when we got them, we were the 4th campground in the country to get them.
Wow, interesting.
So,
what made you decide to order specifically the camping barrels?
Well, we had some full service cabins, but they're a little bit pricey, and we have a 2-night minimum on them. And people just wanted a night someplace, especially like the tenors. If it was raining, they wanted to get out of the rain, but they didn't want to pay $200 a night for a full service cabin. They just needed someplace to crash And so we started searching around, and me and my wife are all about being different and unique. And we started on a search. Okay, we need to find some lower price cabins that we can get people into, and we kept seeing all the normal ones. No offense if you have them, but that's not us. And we started noticing these round things that they're very popular in Europe. I guess there's all different kinds of configurations in Europe. And I'm like, how do I get my hands on some of those? And I reached out to some of the companies in Europe and some of the campgrounds in Europe that had them, and none of them had shipped. None of them had shipped to the States. And I found a distributor in Connecticut, and he was able to get me 4 of them from Norway. And so we got them in, and they come in a big crate. You got to put them together, and of course the instructions aren't all that well. So the very first one was long and laborious to try to figure it out. It's like Lincoln Logs. And after that, we were professionals at putting them together.
Well, I guess IKEA is Swedish and not Norwegian, but I guess it's like putting, IKEA furniture together with those instructions, and you're like trying to figure out.
There was a lot of stomping around and probably some inappropriate language when we were putting
Are they
them
full hookup? Like you mentioned, you didn't want necessarily the cabin. So do the barrels have facilities, bathroom, power, water, sewer?
No, they we have 2 small ones and 2 big ones. The small ones have a queen mattress in them. They have an outlet and a light and a fan. And then where you sleep in front, they have like little benches. But they're all closer to. We set them up close to a bathhouse, and that's all they have in them. I mean, it's kind of like the little vinyl mattresses you had when you were in kindergarten. When you were done, you had to wipe them off and stack them. That's what it is. You provide your own bedding or sleeping bags or whatever, and they're actually way more popular than me and my wife could have ever expected.
They sound awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they're very Instagrammable, right? Maybe you could surf. You could do one of those surf houses in a camping barrel. Get some water and then combine both.
I've installed a tap on the back side of the barrel, so people, looks more like a tapped barrel.
Huh. All right. Well, I'm going to come back to you too, because I have some more questions. But first, Jeff Hoffman, what has come across your desk recently? What's on your mind?
Well, there's some legislation in Ohio that's about if they could affect other states. The county commissioners are coming after our bed taxes. Right now, all bed taxes have to go to a tourist bureau or a chamber of something like this. They want to. They put it.
I'm sorry. Can you hear Jeff, or is that my audio?
No, I can't quite hear you.
Okay, hold on. Let me check my.
Oh, I think.
Let me turn it
You're
up.
back now. There you go.
Yeah.
You're back.
Oh, all right. Anyway, there's a bill in Ohio that will allow the county commissioners to take 2/3 of the revenue created from bed taxes and use it on whatever they want. Well, in our county, we have a pretty good budget. They already take an additional 2%, but on our share of the 2%, we raise over $4 million for a very small county. Given that they would take 2/3 of that, we would be hard pressed to operate. But right now, I'm sitting in Hocking County, which would come under the same rules. If they took 2/3 of theirs, their visitors bureau would cease to exist because they couldn't operate on what's left of the funding. And it's all based on, we have one commissioner that introduced the bill that doesn't believe marketing works and thinks it's a waste of time and the money should go into infrastructure.
We're dealing with the same thing at one of our properties in Arizona, and their the way they make their revenue is through either sales tax or they want to increase the bed tax, and they want to go up 5 points, which is considerable.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it would put this small town number 2 in the entire state in terms of total taxes. And they could go down the street to the next city and pay 5 or 6% less, and the next city has more retail, more restaurants. And we're trying to explain to them, we understand your goal, and we understand you want to increase revenues, but what's the long-term vision of how much occupancy will you lose in dissatisfaction because somebody can choose to go to a more developed city or town and pay less taxes.
Right. Yeah. They can do that to a point, but at some point they kill the golden
that's
goose.
the conversation we're having with them.
Right. And like with me, obviously, because I'm old, I've been on that Visitors Bureau for about 30 some years, and we built it from a revenue of about 250,000 where we couldn't pay our bills to up to $4 million. And it's only because we've gotten it that high that people now are interested in us because they think we have spare money. So everybody comes with their hand out. And, I'm still, the county thinks it's their money because it's a tax. And I think it's my money because I built the properties that are collecting the taxes. So we have a difference of philosophies on how that money is raised.
It's a great.
I feel it's money.
For those that don't know, both Jeff and I have been involved with the National Association OHI and the CCCA, the Credit Card Competition Act, as well as some other legislation. And what Jeff's talking about, or whether it's the CCCA, or whether it's stay rules, or whether it's permitting park models, I think the message is clear: is that it's important that everybody gets involved in either their local, state, or national associations of various kinds, tourism boards, the RV associations, outdoor hospitality associations, because our industry has been very unregulated for so long, and as there's more prominence and visibility into it as it continues to grow, people are starting, just like what Jeff described, I want some more money, and they're changing things that are not benefiting our properties. So we got to have a voice.
Right. And one of the reasons Mike and I are both involved is in the campground that I'm sitting at, we're putting in a brand new bathhouse and laundry. We were doing it as a modular. Well, at first we were building it to RVI A code, which is the park model code. That was not acceptable to the state of Ohio because this county doesn't have a building inspector. So then we had to go to the commercial inspector. So my bathhouse went from $75,000 to $140,000 to meet the Ohio codes. Yeah, so that that's one reason. Like your barrels that you built, you probably didn't have to go through a lot of zoning because you don't have that much in the Dakotas. If I tried to build those in Ohio, I couldn't get them done. I'd have to bring them up to some
even if they're
kind of
under
code.
like a certain size.
So
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, it used to be in Ohio you can get by with anything under 12 by 12 was considered a shed. But once you start,
we've got,
and that's how I got. That's how I got some. Yeah, that's how I got some in Ohio. But then they found out people were sleeping in my sheds, and that opened
it looks
up.
like you're sitting in your giant shed. That's bigger than 12 by 12. Where?
Yeah, this is the pavilion.
Yeah.
But well, that'll lead to another conversation, I guess, Mike. It's almost the end of June, and I don't have people doing activities.
Yeah, one of the things I want to
this
talk about
campground.
specifically, as I said, I wanted to swing back to Kaylee and Steve, especially since you guys are north. One of you are on the north side of the border, and the other one's on the south side of the border. And here we are in summertime, and I'm curious, what the travel trends are looking like in your markets this summer, with, Canadian travelers coming south and American travelers going north, or Canadian travelers going west. How is everybody's markets doing right now?
I know our bookings are up quite a bit, especially in the shoulder season. I mean, our high season's always full. That's kind of just been standard, but our shoulder season's been great. It's been sunnier out here, so our spring tends to be really weather dependent. We're in a rainforest, so if it's heavily raining, people don't want to trek all the way out here to camp in the rain. But yeah, we've been really quite full. We've been having a handful of Americans. A lot of Canadians are staying in Canada, so we've been getting a lot of people have been canceling their trips to the States, we've been finding. So, and then a lot of Europeans. We get a ton of Germans and Dutch coming over. They rent RVs in the Rockies, and then they come over and they kind of finish on Vancouver Island and then fly out of Vancouver. So those numbers are up from last year, I would say. But so yeah, like so far this season, and our surf lessons have been going out daily, which for spring is great for us. So people have been spending money. And I don't know if it's because like things are a little bit tighter, so now people are camping a bit more. We tend to kind of thrive when people need to, they don't have the budget to really stay at like the expensive resorts around here. So camping is a great alternative. So we've had a great spring so far, and our summer's looking really, really good.
It's interesting with the tumult of, the border and tariffs. And like you said, you may have an unintentional boon for Canadians visiting you, and they may have normally visited south, which is positive for you. How about you, Steve? How's it? How are you guys doing?
Well, our May was slow because we were just rain, and cold this year. I mean, highs were 50s with a lot of rain, so May was a little bit slower than normal. Our Memorial Day was really horrible because it rained the entire weekend. As far as our Canadian travelers go and our international travelers, the only trend that I've seen with the Canadians is, and in fact, I've got one or two in here now. When some of the political environment happened, we saw an influx of cancellations from Quebec. Nowhere else. I don't know what that's about. I'm not Canadian. I don't know. But I know most of the Quebecians canceled, but the folks from some of the other provinces, I think I maybe had one from Nova Scotia. But the rest of my Canadians are booking. We'll see, and we will see an influx in Canadians at the end of September. We're open till the 15th of October. So I will see an influx from about the middle of September to when I close with them heading south. So I don't know if I'll see that this year, but my Canadian bookings seem to be on track. My international bookings are actually, I think, a little higher than normal. That may be in part the fact that last year we switched over to an online booking company, and you didn't have to call or email. So we are seeing a more influx of the international travelers with the rentals coming in. We just had I don't know what you call them, from the Netherlands. They were just here yesterday. So we do quite a few of them. Netherlands and Germany seem big.
Oh, who do you use for your online booking platform?
Firefly.
Oh, gotcha. I was just curious because all of your sites are like uniquely shaped, and that's kind of like our campground as well. So we had issues with like finding the right software.
I like Firefly because you could go in and put your minimum, maximum lengths in. So if you had a really big site, you didn't want to really book a 25-footer in there. You want to try to get a bigger rig in there, because that's what I do. I play Jenga all summer, make sure I get rig appropriate sizes in the sites. Like I said, because none of them are the same. Firefly will do that. They have, and it's worked great for me. I've never had any problems with it. And we have the international travelers are booking because they can, instead of sending us an email and having to set us up and and go back and forth through email. They just go in and book it.
Yep. And Jeff, you said you're empty, so to me that indicates, is it just you, or is Ohio down and having challenges? I take it.
A lot of it has been spring never arrived. We have had rain almost every weekend and every day, with temperatures ranging from 40 to 60. It's horrible. Even our pool won't heat because it's not used to going down to 40 at night. So the pool heater is running 24/7. I don't know if it aided overall. I'll have to look at that. Last year, I have a tough time comparing year over year, because if I have to take April out, because we had the full eclipse last year, which put a big chunk of money in April when we're not usually even open. So, but I still hold the manager's feet to the fire for the total, not.
Yeah, right.
I don't take
And I
that
can't
out.
believe that was only last. I think like that was like 3 years ago, that eclipse. I can't believe that was only last year. But it's interesting. Depending on which data source you look at, Ohio released one of their reports last month, and showed that Canadian travel is absolutely down and considerable for some areas, right? And if you're in New Hampshire or Vermont, I'm sorry, right? They're showing that Canadian travel is down like 50%. In those two states, they're the number 1 and 2 highest hit, according to the data dig. And then some of the other northern states like Ohio and some of the border states like Michigan are also seeing, some considerable declines, from the Canadian travel. Us southern states, we experienced it in Q1 already, just in general, right? The value of the Canadian dollar, the gas prices, regardless of the whole political climate and tariffs and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see once we hit our next booking season, especially snowbird season, what that looks like. We've already felt like, we're a little nervous, but do we need to be even, more nervous for next year? And
Well, have you noticed the booking window has shortened?
of course, yeah. I mean,
COVID, we were 3-4 weeks out, if not more, and now I feel like I'm back in the hotel business, where on Monday I'm losing my mind because we're not booked, and then by the weekend we book up. But
yeah, it's
I'm so
very,
used to
again,
being booked.
Yeah, looking at the data dig, the booking window has shrunk, 20 to 30% year on year. It's much closer. And for us, I mean, the same thing for all of our properties. We've seen the booking window shrink as well, 20 to 30%. And it's, it speaks to what Kaylee was talking about, is there's, much closer to home vacations, staycations, people not traveling longer distances, right. Which means, you don't have the grand vacations, you have more shorter vacations, but also shorter stays. Right. As well.
Well, they're also staying a little longer, I've noticed, at least with me. I mean, we're only about half the bookings that we normally get right now, which is normal for us. But we're 3/4 of the way there for our nights. The nights that I expect to get over the summer, we're 3/4 of the way there, with only half the bookings that we would have for all year. So that indicates to me that we're getting longer stays on average.
It always amazes me, or it's just so interesting.
It's funny because we prefer shorter stays, because we want more people coming and going to make, like, do the surf rentals, do the lessons, everything. So our bread and butter is like 2-3 days. Yeah.
We're more average about 4 to 5, but they seem to be up to 6 to 7 now.
Oh, nice. Is it because of just like local activities, so they stay and then they kind of go and see?
We've got Mount Rushmore, we've got Crazy Horse, we've got Custer State Park. That's what we kind of call the big three. But then I mean, you could come here and spend a month and not see everything that the Black Hills has to offer. I mean, I've been here 13 years and haven't seen everything. So there's a lot to do, and a little niche for everybody. I mean, we've got history, we've got nature, We've got all kinds of different things for different people. We've got fishing, we've got boating, so it's a little bit for everybody. A lot of people come to South Dakota and think, oh, I'll book 2 days because we're just going to see Mount Rushmore, and then they get here and they're like, can I get 4 or 5 more days? I did not realize that there was so much going on here, and it's about 50-50 if I can even give it to them. And usually they end up coming back because they realize, 2 days just isn't enough in the Black Hills.
It might. I think what we're proving here is what I learned when I thought I could systematize campgrounds across the.
Oh, of course.
The thing is that all campgrounds have their own identity, their own market, their own stay pattern, and when you try to figure them out, we just have 2 campgrounds on here that they're both diverse in their demographics and what they're getting and how they're getting the people. So it just shows how much diversity there is across the industry. So
yeah,
well, even in the town of Custer, I mean, there's 5 or 6 different types of campgrounds.
Right.
If satellite TV is important to you, you don't stay with me. I got too many trees. You're not getting a satellite. And we've had people come in. Is my satellite going to work here? 99% sure it's not going to work here. There's too many trees. And there's a campground down the road, and they said, your satellite will work here. We have no trees.
Right.
And so even in the same town, we have different aspects of campground. I mean, within 15 miles of me, there's 55 campgrounds.
I think it's to your point, Jeff. It's very interesting because just not just diversity of market, but diversity of sophistication. Steve is just talking about how he just got his online booking platform, recently, right? Where like our properties, we wouldn't be able to exist without online booking, and we've had them for years, right? But the needs of each campground and the development of each campground doesn't mean that his isn't successful and mine isn't, or vice versa. Oh, we just lost Jeff. But it just speaks to that interesting diversity. One of the things that we've been working on with both the National Association as well as Sage Outdoor Advisory and a couple other partners is trying to classify the campgrounds by category, so that we can nationalize the data, so that you can, have an understanding by campground category, by market. What is a market doing? How healthy are they? What is the data, for, oops, I think I just kicked him out. Try again, Jeff. Sorry. And so we'll see how that plays out, but it's hard to describe trends when you're speaking about your localized market because every market is different. I do have a question both for Steve and Kaylee, and hopefully Jeff hops back on. As you're talking about your travelers there, how many of them do you think are renting an RV? Do you know? Or do you see a lot of RV rentals, or it's something you don't even look at or track?
Me?
Both, anyone.
Yeah. I would say maybe a third of our RVs are rentals, maybe more. Yeah, we get a lot of like rented RVs. We get like the Europeans come, like we have a lot of Europeans. So yeah, and we've been getting more and more people, local people, Airbnb-ing their trailers and motorhomes. So driving it out to the campground and putting it on the campsite for people to stay in, which is an interesting new thing that like has been happening the last like couple of years. So that's been like an interesting, but that's like, I guess, another RV rental. Yeah, I would say probably like a third, maybe if not half of our RVs are rentals.
Interesting. That's a lot. How about you, Steve?
It's a huge, yeah.
I would say, well, sometimes it's kind of hard to keep track of because I don't necessarily know if it's a rental or not. But what do I do see? Yeah, all our international Cruise America. There's that other company, was it Monterey or something like that, RV that you see a lot of. And plus we work well with a lot of the RV share people here in the area. They bring out their RV, they drop it off, they come pick it up. In fact, we have a bigger company called Jack's Campers here. I think they have hundreds of RVs they rent out, and they do the same thing. They bring it down, drop it off. Uh, I would probably say probably 10% maybe are rentals that we're seeing. I mean, we see them every day. I mean, at least one or two every day
Wow.
of some form of rental.
And how, and Kaylee, if you're seeing a third to half, is that intentional? Do you market to them, or how do you get there? Is it by accident?
No, it's just the area. It's like kind of a high demand. It's on that path that like a lot of Europeans or people that want to come see the area, and they want to see Vancouver Island, and it's spread. They're coming and they don't have cars, and so yeah, I think it's just the best way to see. All of Canada is so spread out, so I think it's the best way for them to see everything. But yeah, we don't really advertise or have any deals with those companies. We have a handful of tour companies or like the middlemen that will book the RVs and the stays for people from Europe. And so we have a handful of them that go in and book hundreds of reservations for the summer, but they just do it all online. But yeah, no, we don't do any type of advertising with them.
It's interesting, and Steve, you mentioned you don't really track it, but one of the things that I've been trying to figure out, we have multiple properties across the country, and to me, an untapped market is the connection of these RV rentals and the campgrounds, right? Somebody has an RV and they want to rent it. Well, then when you rent the RV, then you got to go somewhere, right? So how do we bridge the gap, to really make sure that the people that are trying to rent, how do we get them to the campgrounds? So we've been trying to talk to Outdoorsy and RV Share and figure out how to better connect the renter, the rentee, and the campgrounds, but haven't been able to kind of crack that.
I would see the company's called Canadian Camping Adventures, and they're the ones that like reach out to the European, like the people in Europe predominantly that will like book the RV. They book the RV and the length, and then this company goes in and sets their whole itinerary for Canada. So yeah, they'd be a good one to just look into.
One of the things that I do with the rentals is, one, I've gotten to know most of the people that are on RV Share renting their RV in this area. I've gotten to know them, and so when people are renting their RVs looking for it, I've just built relationships with those people, and they're like, "What campground do you recommend?" And I know there's at least one that I know of that she will only recommend us. And then, of course, I work with Jack's Campers. They're the big company, and I'm talking to their delivery guys all the time when they deliver. And it's just gotten to know. And in fact, one of the delivery drivers is like, he's told me, he goes, "You're one of the best campgrounds we like to come to because you're not yelling at us all the time. Because if they show up too early or pick up too late, that can cause check-in, check-out problems. And I try to understand they're busy. They're trying to do a job like me. And as long as they're not picking it up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I got a guy sitting here waiting to get in at 1, I'm usually pretty easy to work with. And the one guy's like, "Yeah, you don't ever yell. You're like, 'Hey, great. Yeah, you're here. Get out.'" And so I think building those personal relationships with people at least has helped me.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jeff, when you hopped off, one of the things I had asked was, how many RV rentals, do you know are coming to your campground? And Kaylee had said a third to half, and Stephen said some, but, maybe 10%. And I'm, curious the question for you too. And what I had asked secondarily after that is, it seems like there's a disconnect in the industry of how, the connection of the person who rents the RV, the renter of the RV, and then how you get them to a campground and bridging that gap, and marketing, as a campground directly to the renter. How do you get to them?
Yeah, that actually has started. It's a new issue that's probably 4 years old, because before that there wasn't, that market didn't exist. But it's the same as anything. You just have to make the RV Share person understand that the people are still under the control of the campground, not calling that guy to complain about how mean we are, because they still have to follow our rules. And then also, we only work with RV Share people that know that and work with us. Most of the time, we know who's coming in by how they booked it, and we will offer some deals on a slow weekend to maybe get their price down. Because to me,
yeah, but that's usually you're on the back end of that. You're just
yep,
receiving it, and that's the RV rental industry has grown to it's almost $1 billion now in revenue,
yep,
right? And so while it's a newer market, it's a considerable market, and I've just been I've been talking to Good Sam, I've been talking to Outdoorsy, I've been talking to RV Share, Campground
right,
World, Camping World, and how do you connect the destination with the person that needs a destination in a rental?
yep,
I haven't figured that out yet.
yep. No, that's a question for the guy that runs this show.
Yeah, come on. Where are you, Brian?
Yeah.
I even chat GBT'd it, but it wasn't very helpful.
But yeah, originally that's how and before I switched to park models, I rented out RVs, and I pity people that RVs are getting a little bit better, but most people don't have a clue of how to operate an RV.
No.
They were always shutting off the water heater. They don't realize it's only like a 10-gallon tank, so they run out of hot water. They have no clue how to operate the stoves, the toilet. So we did that for like 2 years, and then we switched everything over. And actually, I went to Indiana and designed some park models and had them built and brought them in. So everything matched what you had at home. Flush toilet, water heater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I don't want to get back into the RV rental business. I'm happy if people want to do that. I just would like to get a piece of it.
well, that's the thing is you don't need to be the rental, but how do you get the RV share, the Cruise America, the outdoorsy people? How do you get them to come to you?
Yep.
Kaylee doesn't care. I mean, she's sitting fat and proud over there. She sells out every year.
Not in early.
They're up, and everybody comes to us, and we're a destination. I don't care.
Yeah.
A question. And Stephen is saying that his international businesses, but I'm wondering if Kaylee's is up because I don't think that the U.S. overall is getting European trade that we used to. We're just not right now. I don't think we're number one in the world as a destination country.
Mm-hmm.
Wondered if that could be why you're having an increase in European, especially German, because I know we're not getting along with them.
I mean, I would say I think that's the expectation and the trend. I mean, I haven't really looked at our summer bookings to see like what the demographic is yet, but so far this spring we've had a lot of Europeans, which like last year, like it's definitely up from last year. I haven't really like looked at the numbers because like overall it's just weather-wise, it's just a better, busier spring. But yeah, I think I'm assuming it has to do something with that because a lot of times they'll dip down into the States or and then come up through Port Angeles to Victoria to get to the islands. And so I'm assuming maybe I'd be curious to see if they're just like not going
dipping
elsewhere.
Well, Mike, what do you see in the hotel industry for international travel?
It's similar trends, and Marriott had revised their guidance. It was either last month or the month before. Interestingly enough, year to date, Marriott, they're up, year on year, year to date, but then they revised their guidance down the rest of the year by 0.5 point, which is considerable, right? That's quite massive for Marriott to do. But obviously, they were looking at what the political climate was with the tariffs and some of the trade things and the feeling of America, and so they're seeing similar trends. But as we've already talked about, right, that depends on the market too, and everything is so market dependent. So it's hard to answer that question because if you look at some markets, they're up 10%, some are down 4%, but nationally, it's stable-ish, but very, very similar trends. But going from RV share, it's another good kind of segue into another topic I want to talk about, which is every year, whether you're up or down, you know clearly we always have to improve. And so what are some of the things that you all are doing to boost revenues, right? Whether it's you're down and you want to get back up, or whether you're already up and you want to be more up. What are the things that you look at every year as you're growing revenues? What are some of the things that you're doing?
Yes. You want me to go?
Yep.
Ladies first.
Then I'll go. The babbler will start babbling. One thing that we start doing is, like, I think when sales are low, like, if we can always capitalize on, like I said, our surf lessons and rentals. So we've really diversified our revenue. So there's a lot more room to kind of, if one area is lacking, we can really push towards like another area, right? So it all starts with our staff, in my opinion. So the campground's always going to be relatively busy. That's just our area, and the high demand of camping. But really kind of not pushing, that sounds bad, but really trying to get people to sell surf lessons. So doing some type of, we tend to kind of incentivize our staff to really upsell surf rentals and surf lessons, and that is one way we can really like boost sales for our or increase our revenue when things are down. So I would say like that's typically like a short-sighted reaction when things aren't going well, and then just really increasing spending money on marketing.
Pushing, you can use the word pushing. There's nothing wrong with the word pushing.
It just sounds like take it.
Yeah. How about you, Steve? What do you kind of look to do each year when you're trying to boost sales, drive revenue, find additional opportunities?
Honestly, I'm in a good area. I mean, I'm in the Black Hills, 20 miles from Mount Rushmore. Marketing is really easy here. Not only am I doing stuff, but I mean, I've got the state pushing South Dakota. We have a lot. Some of the things that I've been doing over the last couple of years is personally, I've been going to travel shows. I'm a board member for different organizations, and so they do a lot of travel shows. So one of the perks of going to the travel show is you get to promote your place, as well as the Black Hills. So I've been doing a lot of that. And it seems to be working. Last year I went to North Dakota, and to a couple of the shows up there, and I got an influx of North Dakotans. This year I went to La Crosse. I doubled down. I went to La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I went to Omaha. And now we have an influx of Wisconsin and Nebraska people coming in. So that seems to be working quite a bit. I'm a big people talking person, so I like to meet people and talk to people, and I don't get nervous like Kaylee. So it was really nice to go to those shows and chit chat with people, and they remember that. And so all the other campgrounds that are there getting promoted, they remember, oh, that guy talked to us. And so I've been doing a lot of that. So I did travel quite a bit this winter. One of the things we used to be pretty bad on Facebook, so we're trying to be a little bit better on that social media and stuff. And there's a couple of influencers here in South Dakota that I've chatted with and everything, and they've promoted us as well. So it's hard to say. I mean, the Black Hills really does sell itself. I just got to be able to get out there in front of everybody else, and the stuff that I'm doing seems to be.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially when you're an established campground. You get your repeat business and notoriety, and clearly, I can tell you're bashful, Steve. I had to move Kaylee off the main screen to the side. I didn't want her to, be in the full screen the whole time. And you're not babbling; you're doing great.
Thanks.
And Jeff, how about you? When you're consulting, right, and especially maybe a newer park, right? How do you get them to build their notoriety, to build their marketing, to build their awareness, to drive revenue?
When you're starting a campground, we had brought up diversified markets and some of that before. What you have to do is figure out looking at your data, if you're a new park, you don't have that yet, but comparing other industry data for that area, what's your actual market? And how do you hit that specifically? And I usually recommend, depending on your size, hiring a marketing firm that can deep dive into data and actually pinpoint, uh, like with yours, they could hit groups that are interested in surfing and maybe interested in, because they've looked up surfing online someplace.
Don't give her any
that.
tips. She doesn't need any more business. No.
Oh,
Okay, that's right.
yeah.
And
We have some
neither does North Dakota.
meta-specific campaigns and ads.
Yeah. So I guess I'm talking to you, Mike, right? You must need the
Oh,
help.
yes, please.
Oh no,
I'm
I'll still take your help, Jeff.
Please, coach.
I'm all yours.
But you've got to find out, even where you're competing against other campgrounds, you're
Mhm.
going to have a niche that's yours that you can market to, that makes you different from every other campground that you're competing with. And some of that is you're going to have to do some footwork, also be very involved with your Visitors Bureau, your Chamber of Commerce, your state associations, national, because the national does give a great data dig, and we also get that at our state association, and it just helps find out where people are coming from, so you know where to put your advertising
So then
dollars.
let's translate that to the campground that you've been with just a short time, 57 years. For one that you clearly know the data and all the market information about, how do you boost revenues year on year for a campground that you have dialed in, maximized? How do you grow every year?
Well, it's getting tougher. Yeah. Those 10 and 15% growths are slowing down. So anymore, I'm happy with 8. But yes, what we do is take a look at what's new in our area, who's looking at our area. This year, what we did was market to everybody within our 3-hour drive limit that attended a camping show. So if they went to a camping show, we somehow got an IP address for that, and we could send them some emails, and also try to hit them up on Google Ads. When anything that comes up on camping, we have an ad there. We also have at this campground, we have a great partner called KOA that does a lot of the national marketing. So we concentrate on our 3-hour drive time. We don't have to do a lot of national. So we're looking at, we have an amusement park called Cedar Point that's a mile away from us. And then they built sports facilities for basketball, soccer, baseball, all of that, a half a mile away from us. So we've been trying to book in more with Cedar Point, trying to figure out how to get their people to know that we exist, even though we've been there for 900 years.
There's a good chance I stayed at your place then if you're only a mile away from Cedar Point.
You may have. It's pretty good size. There's a few. I used to own them all in our area, and
I grew up going to Cedar Point twice a year.
Did you? Where are you
Pittsburgh
from?
Originally.
I can bypass that.
So how many Aaron Rodgers memes have you seen in the last month, Steve?
Try to block all those.
Yeah. Well, we used to have a horrible rivalry with this team from Pittsburgh, but we no longer have a team that's worth worrying about. So
neither does Pittsburgh, so you don't need to worry. You don't need to worry about that. Kaylee's like, "What's this football thing you're talking about?"
I'm actually originally from Seattle. So.
Oh my gosh, so you're a Seahawks fan.
Seahawks.
Oosh.
One of my favorite coaches I don't know about the team, but I love the coach.
Was it Carol or the? Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he's
great.
yeah. You know where he stands.
Good old.
Yeah, that's I don't like
Oh,
Oh,
the Steelers
Patriot,
yeah.
huh?
Yep. I don't like the Seahawks or the Steelers. I don't care about the Browns.
So predictable.
Yeah. What have they done? What have the Patriots done for you
More
lately?
than what the Browns have done for you.
The Browns have made me give up on Sunday football and go play golf on Sundays.
It's interesting. Oh my! She's got her material. I should grab all my Patriots.
I was just waiting for it.
Yeah, man, threw it up on the screen. I guess if you're in Vancouver.
But yeah, getting back to that, because we do have a franchise that markets nationally, we're allowed to focus our dollars on a basically 3-hour drive time. Unfortunately, part of that, which is about half of our market, is water, because nobody comes from Lake Erie. So our drive time, we used to get, in the 80s, we got a lot of Canadians, but since the 90s, our Canadian business has been nothing. I should look at the demographics for Cedar Point, but they don't release them, to see how many Canadian visitors they get.
Cedar Point doesn't release demographic stats every year.
They're very controlling of their data. Even when we try to get just raw data for bed tax use on their hotel sales, they won't give it to us.
Well, we got 2 minutes left, so I'll give everybody a chance to have kind of a parting word. If they have a thought or something they want to share, please feel free. So we won't start with Kaylee. We'll give her a chance to wrap up. So, Steve, you have any thoughts or parting words?
Well, no, I just want to thank you guys for having me on. It's been great. Camping, I mean, we love it. We're all different, and if Kaylee ever needs advice or anything, my number is always open. We can always compare notes. Other than Steelers Super Bowl wins against Seattle, we can't really compare those too much. But no, it's been great, and I wish everybody a great season.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Jeff?
We won't talk about Super Bowls. We'll leave that off the table. So other than that, my parting shot is that every campground's different. I am a consultant, but I will answer questions and talk to you, because that doesn't cost you anything, doesn't cost me anything. So, we can go from there after a chat, but if you need some advice, I'm always open.
Yeah.
Superstar Kaylee?
Risky move, opening that door.
All right.
No, this is awesome. I honestly just love chatting with people that run campgrounds. It's such a niche, weird little, career we have, with lots of wild stories, and the insight is awesome, and it was great chatting with you guys. And yeah, this is great. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. After you hear the outro music, you don't need to stay on, just so you know. I'd like to thank all of our guests, Steve and Kaylee, for joining us as new guests, and of course Jeff as a recurring guest, and appreciate everybody's time and passion. As you all say, this outdoor hospitality industry is amazing, and it's just so interesting and fun, and able to connect with the guests in the outdoors. I mean, we've all got great opportunities, and it's an amazing thing to be a part of. So with that, I wish everybody well. Have a great July 4th coming up. And
Kaylee, Stephen, very nice meeting you. It was great to hear your story.
Nice to meet you guys.
We'll catch everybody on the other side.
All right.
Fireside.